Thank you to Hairpin Art Center for being our streaming partner. Anysquared Spotlight Art Talks highlight member and friend artists of all ages and experiences. This week's talk features Monstrochika. Hey everyone, this is Anysquared Spotlight, and this week our friend Monstrochika, who is also known as Naomi Martinez, is going to give the talk. She's a friend of ours. We've known her for many years. I think we met her first when she painted on Project Logan. And I know she's been in different art groups, and she'll be talking about all the things that she has been doing. So welcome, Naomi.
Hi everybody, welcome. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Anysquared. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so I'm Naomi Martinez. I'm also known as Monstrochika. I met you at the Project Logan painting a wall, and I believe that was an all-girl wall that we did that one time. That was like still towards the beginning of me starting to paint. Well, no, not really. Maybe I had been painting maybe like 3 years or something like that. 4 years maybe. Yeah, I got a chance to paint there. I'm so glad. I hear that it's probably not gonna be there anymore. I was going through some of the, because I made a list for the end of the slideshow, just kind of talking about, like showing some of the places I've worked with. And there's like a handful of them that are no longer. And it's so sad to hear when something's, all these alternative art spaces are like disappearing and stuff. So, but yeah, that's where we met. And so I grew up in Logan Square. I think, so will I be able to see the slideshow, Trace?
Yes, I was going to ask you when you wanted me to do the slideshow. Yeah. I'll start sharing it now.
Yeah, can you? Thank you. So yeah, I really had fun with this slideshow. I wanted to start at the beginning. I promise I won't be here on that. But I kind of wanted to start at the beginning because it's so important to why I do what I do. And so this is me in second grade. So my mother is the first artist that I really knew, but you know, at the time I didn't know that. She made this dress that I'm wearing. She would sew a lot of our clothing for our photo day, for me and my sister. And I think she did that through maybe like, I want to say like 6th grade. And then I was just like, okay, mom, this is not cool anymore. But she did, she was she's a great seamstress. She is a great seamstress. And my grandmother was a great seamstress. And so, yeah, we can go to the next slide. So so I grew up from the time I was born through like maybe like 10 years old. I grew up between 3 different places, and those 3 places are Rio Grande Valley, Texas, South Texas, also known as El Valle, and Chicago, of course, and Durango, Mexico. That's where my dad is from. And so I was born in El Valle, in a little town called La Hielera, the fridge. And so like, it was just known as the fridge because that's where people would go get their ice. And it's a very poor side of town. My mom grew up there with her 5 siblings in a little 1-bedroom house. They lived in different places around Texas. They would work the fields. My grandmother grew up working the fields. She grew up working the fields with her siblings. So I have a rich history there. And I still have a lot of family there, and so there's a lot of generational trauma there. My grandfather was a POW during World War II with the Germans. He was, there's just a lot going on there that, a lot of sad stories, but also joyful stories. And my mom shared that with me. So those were the first things that that was the other art form that my mother shared with me, just telling her story to me. And in Texas, we were outside all the time, climbing trees, nature, eating, sugar cane off the field. Like I'm sitting in the middle of the road, sucking on sugar cane. We'd just pick grapes off the vine. And so that nature like stayed with me. I loved that. And then coming back to Chicago, I would hate it, like I'd be cooped up. And then my dad would take me every other summer to Mexico, Durango, Mexico, to his ranch over there. And then I knew nature over there and animals and all these things. And then in Chicago, again, just cooped up and a whole different lifestyle, right? So I would escape through books. Like I would, I loved books. I loved art, obviously. And I come from a domestic violence household. So that was another like part of my life, growing up with that. So art was really important. And can you please put the next slide, please? And what was I looking at? What was I, this is what I was coping all that with. I was looking at movies, programs, listening to music. I love like Disney films. I did not relate with the princesses. I looked at the animals. I loved the animals. I loved all the animal characters. I loved Sesame Street, Rainbow Bright. All this pop culture was like, Punky Power, all this, the Peanuts gang. And I totally related with the adults just like being inaudible. I grew up in a time when, you didn't really think about how children's minds are developing, and you're just, they're just kids, And so, so this is what I was looking at. There's a lot of big-eyed art around. So we looked at, I would look at these in like the Woolworth and like see these, and relate to and like connect with these paintings or whatever. They weren't paintings, but they were photographs of paintings. And it was so strange. Like I don't know why they were always like barefoot and like standing in an alley, and I don't know, like, it was so strange. Sad, homeless, like animals. I don't know what was going on there. So I think so it was like, they were sad, but they made me happy. I don't know. It was a strange thing. And of course, music was always there. Dancing. I love to dance. And next slide, please. And then this is high school. I went to Gallery 37. I was there as an apprentice artist. That's the top left corner. That's me in the Marwin tent. Back then they were called Marwin Foundation. And so they were instructors from Marwin Foundation. And I learned pottery and I learned painting. I was there for 2 summers. And then the middle top is my drama club in high school. Yeah, so again, like I loved theater, I loved singing, dancing. And then on the top right corner, that's me at Columbia with a storyboard in my hand there. I tried animation. I tried so many things at Columbia, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was out protesting against, back then, Proposition 187, against the anti-immigrant laws that were trying to be passed back then too. So I worked on a lot of banners with friends. That was something I was doing back then. I joined the band. I was singing. I was doing poetry. Um, and this here, this is some lyrics from a Cure song, and it's called The Catch. I don't know if anyone knows that, but I loved The Cure. I loved, like, one of my favorite videos is Close to Me. I love all that, like, kind of magical realism, like all those kind of movies. And so I was watching a lot of movies. I was listening to a lot of music. And so that, uh, that was really, like, influential in that time for me. Next slide, please. And so at Columbia, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did come away with something. This was like the first body of work that I ever did. And so what I would do with my camera is, like, I would just take my little sister out on these photo shoots. I would just set her up, I'd dress her up, and, like, so it came time where we had to turn in, like, a body of work to the teacher and have a critique and all this. And so I turned in my photos. This isn't all of them, there's more, but so so we talked about it, and, like, she kind of was like, okay, interesting. I see that so I see that you know, you have this girl, and, like, but there's these dark, like, this dark themes happening. Like, I see homelessness, I see child neglect, I see child abuse, I see prostitution. And I'm like, whoa, you know. I was thinking to myself, whoa, like, wow, she sees all that. And then she's, but in the end she's okay, you know, because, you know, I have these nice photos of her too, you know, where she's got the little hamster and she's happy, she's smiling. And so I was just like, wow, that's interesting that she this is what she saw when she saw my photographs. And then she's like, what's the name of your body of work or whatever? I was like, well, you know, she's 6. I mean, she's 6 years old, my sister. I don't know. She's 6. She's like, oh, okay, all right, I'll take that. So that was my final. And so, yeah, that was my first body of work. But I noticed, like, later on, much later on, I was like, you know, this is the first work that I'm using a girl at the center of my work. And so then that's what I noticed about that. And then, yeah, what is this, like, I do see this, like, why did I set her up in these, you know, I don't know, why did I just thought it was cool at the time. Like, I liked the background. I liked that raw, like, kind of, you know, city background, like, you know, but maybe there is something else going on there subconsciously. I don't know. Next slide, please. And I wanted to start, like, I do a lot of different things, of course, and I wanted to start with zines, just because I wanted to talk about how, yeah, like, the first thing that I really was doing was learning about stories, reading, you know. I loved picture books, I loved fairy tales, all kinds of things. So speaking of stories, like, maybe, like, this was maybe, like, excuse me, like 10 years ago, I did my first zine. And so I had been wanting to write about how when I met Lady Pink, which is an artist that is from the early days of New York City graffiti, maybe like the late 70s, early, like maybe the 80s. And so I wanted to talk about how when I met her, after I met her, like, she just planted this seed in me that I wanted to learn graffiti. And you know, and she gave me a lot of inspiration, a lot of, like, you know, I had never seen a Latina artist before that. And so this was in high school. I was like a sophomore, and I had cut school, and these kids were, like, hanging out. And then some guys like, oh yeah, you know, Lady Pink's gonna be speaking at the school, the Art Institute. And I was like, wow, I wanna go, you know, like, who's that? I didn't know anything about her. And so I went, and there was a bunch of kids cutting school, and we were all there. And so I saw her speak, I saw her work. So I wanted to write about that. But when I started to write about it, I started to realize all the things that were happening in that time. And then I made the connections, and I just kept writing and writing. And then it just ended up being about my time leading up to when I met her, then after I met her, everything that followed because of that. So so that's, and it's volume 1. There's not any other volumes. I never got back to doing volume 2 or anything, of course, because you got so many projects, right? But yeah, it's just this story that I really wanted to get out of me, and I did, and I'm proud of myself. And zines, I was able to do it with zines because I don't need permission from anyone to tell this story or to get this on paper or to, you know, that's what I love about zines. Next slide, please. And so the zines that I do are daily drawings, you know, quotes, art from my sketchbook, things like that. Next slide. And then I'll have like cats, comics. This is a comic I did when David Bowie died. So that's me and Jose in the bed talking about, you know, this is when I found out David Bowie died. So I talk a lot about music, like, you know, animals, pets I've had, memories. Next slide, please. And I just did one about what I was going through leading up to before the shutdown, before COVID went full blown and we had to shut down everything. And then just things that are keeping me going. I'm a creative spirit. I wish to continue on an artistic path and live an artful life. So that's something that I wrote when I was let go from my job like a year ago, and I decided to just go be a full-time artist. And so then COVID hit, and that kind of set everything upside down. But you know, we've been making it. And so I ended up teaching sooner than later. So that's what I've been doing, teaching. And so, and then again, like just my thoughts, musings, life is art is life. So that's really truly what I believe when making art. Next slide, please. Murals. There I am, Project Logan. That's when I met Tracy and Anysquared, everybody. Yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about was murals. Next slide, please. So I did Pilsen Open Studios for the first time. Oh gosh, I'm old, like 20 years ago or something. And I met these Southside women artists that were doing amazing things. Like they work with their community, like they're, you know, they were about hip hop, all 5 elements of hip hop, breakdancing, graffiti, you know, everything. So I met them through Pilsen Open Studios, and they invited me to paint because I told them I always wanted to paint, because they said, do you paint? Would you ever want to paint? I'm like, yeah, let's keep in touch. So the first time that I painted with them is the top left character there with the jaguar head. That was my first time spray painting. So I mean, I've gotten a lot better since then, but that was my beginning with them. And I didn't do the letters coming out of her hands. That was somebody that knew what they were doing. But you know, they kind of just let me, they're like, okay, this is how you use this, and this is the, you know, so they kind of mentored me. And it was an all-girl wall, the first all-girl wall in the South Side of Chicago. And so I was there by accident. Like I didn't even know that. I didn't know till later that that's what was going on. And so I worked with them for like, I kept painting with them. We went on a road trip to B Girl B in Minneapolis. That's the one in the middle. That's the second year I was there. And then on the bottom left here, that's Steph and Glow and me painting at an event called Venus. And that was at the Abbey Pub in Chicago. That was like that was an all-woman event, performers, visual artists. So that was a really great event. I don't think they did it again though. I thought it was gonna keep going every year, but I don't think they did. And then at the top, right up there, all the way at the top, that's We Are Hip Hop. That's Delilah Salgado. She was working with Pros Art Studios in Pilsen, and the kids, they came up with this festival called We Are Hip Hop, and they had graffiti artists, they had vendors, they had food, they had MCs come to perform. They organized it all on their own. I mean, the kids did this, you know. So I just went and was a guest painter. And then on the right, there's some other, another character I came up with on the wall. And then the bottom right corner, that's Meeting of Styles. That's the second time, no, that's the first time I did Meeting of Styles. And I did it one other time, and then I didn't, there was just so many skilled writers there. I felt a little out of place, but you know, I mean, hey, I did it. I was proud of myself. I got my characters up, and you know, and that's what you do. You just go and you do it. And then next slide, please. Yay. And then here I got a little better. So the top left corner is Pilsen Open Studios. I ended up painting at a friend's house and at her home. So that's one, a little cat character. And the bottom left is I Still Love Her. That was an all-woman wall. That was along the, before the Bloomingdale, before the 606 was there. And so, yeah, so like I have like a God DJ, you know, and she's a female, she's a DJ. I have like my cat in there with the little leg warmers and stuff, little Afro pick character. And I got some Keith Haring in there, and little breakdancing girl, the pyramids. That's one of my favorite graph pieces that I did. And then on the bottom right, the three all along this corner on the right here, bottom corner, is all Splash. Splash wall is a wall in Little Village, so all women wall too. And two girls from Little Village down there, been running this for some years now, and it's really fun. That top right mushroom character up there, I was really struggling with that one. I have bad carpal tunnel, and I can't spray as tight as I used to. But you know, I mean, that's okay. I'll probably, I don't know if I'll spray paint again. I started doing just the acrylic paint murals, indoor murals now. I really want to do that. But maybe I'll paint again. But I had fun, you know, it's something that I know how to do. And, you know, I had a lot of fun with a lot of awesome women artists. The middle one is Phoenix. I got to also travel to Phoenix with the girls, and that was really special, really fun. So next slide, please. And this was the one at Project Logan. This was, I was really proud of this one too. I did two big characters, and I did that little scene in the back, and I did those letters. Woohoo! I was really proud of that one. So that character was inspired by Junko Mizuno. She's a Japanese artist. And then I got the little Simpsons three-eyed fish there, mutated fish, and little cat chef. So this was a Monsanto wall against, you know, I remember in that time they were talking about Monsanto and how they were, you know, genetically modifying all these seeds and like just, you know, destroying all this natural life in our food and our plants. And then I remember the gas was really expensive that summer. It was something like almost $5 a gallon. So I have that little BP sign up there with $7 a gallon. That was just a little joke I added. Yeah, but that was really cool. That was the first wall I ever did in where I grew up in Logan Square. So I was really happy about that too. I had never painted in Logan Square, so it was all South Side, or, you know. I even painted out of state, like, and I still hadn't painted in my home hood. Okay, so thank you, Project Logan. Okay, next slide. Oh, and here's some more. That one's Project Logan too, top left. Bottom left is when the 606 started, and it's an outgrow wall too along that side. And then splash up there, that's the completed wall. And then on the bottom is a commission wall through Resurrection Project, Elevarte, and the Museum Mexican Fine Arts. Adriana Baltazar and myself installed this. This is Pelan. So we painted with acrylic and Pelan material. We cut all these pieces out, and then we pasted them like wheat paste style. And it's still there. I mean, it's not as bright, you know, the colors aren't as bright, but I mean, it's still there. And so we did a good job. Okay, next slide. Handmade stuff. I also handmake stuff. I crochet, and I sew, and I use fabric, paint on fabric and things. Next slide, please. How long have I? I'm talking everyone's ear off. Okay, and then, so this is some of my crochet work. And I paint on fabric. I create these dolls from really tiny, that bottom left corner doll is tiny. Like, it's like, I think, I don't know, it fits in a tiny little jewelry box. Yeah, so this is some of my handmade work. Cool. Next slide, please. Illustration. So this is digital illustration. I just started doing those, but usually I do watercolor and ink. Next slide, please. So this is, I do paper dolls. This is some watercolor art. Again, like female character, like just centered, you know, like this is, and again, like I create work through a child's lens. Like this is just how I see the world. And on the bottom, on the very right side, that rainbow and the monster and the girl walking with the cat. The cat's kind of beat up. There's garbage and like litter and stuff. She's walking in a dirty alley with fences and like, but you know, but she's looking ahead, you know, she's not looking behind at, you know, where she's, you know, where she's been. She's looking ahead. So I think that's a really powerful piece. And I actually exhibited that at Hyde Park Art Center. And the show was called Creatures from the Concrete. So yeah, so this is gouache, watercolor, ink, paint markers that I use. Next slide, please. Oh, I think and then yeah, I just put a bunch of, you know, random ones that I've done over the past. I use collage, you know, I sometimes use like different pattern paper, or like you could even see some gold lace on that top one in the middle. Stenciling, again, paint markers, ink, gouache, pens. Yeah. And they're from really tiny to like, maybe like 11 by 14 is the biggest. Next slide. And then just some more, again, collage. There's like some paper flowers, some magazine, like cutouts, some crochet, and that top left corner one. And it's on cardboard. And I use paint markers and different pattern papers and stuff. And then, yeah, just more ink and gouache. Next slide. And again, some more. So the process for these was jelly prints. So I'll do a jelly print with acrylic paint on the background, and then I'll illustrate on the top. Like I'll just start inking, And then I used stamps too sometimes of different shapes. Like I used the butterfly stamps and their butterfly wing stamps. And then, you know, like paint markers and different things.
What's a jelly print?
So a jelly print plate is like this, it's like, it's called a jelly plate because it feels like jelly, I think. But it's Geli, jelly print. And so you put paint on it. And so then you mix whatever colors and make whatever effects on it. Then you just stamp it onto a sheet of paper and then pull it back, and then you'll get these nice nice effect on the paper, kind of not marbleized, I think, but like, yeah. So you just mix different paints on there, and then it's another way of printing, you know. You just don't have a screen. Next slide. And now the last thing I'll talk about is my paintings. This was the first painting I ever did, like 20 years ago, again. And again, like just nature, right? Nature, fauna, flora, creatures, little sidekicks in there. And then the radio, music. And next slide, please. And these are early paintings. These are, I exhibited in a lot of alternative art spaces. I actually, here, I was part of like a festival, like a community festival. And I exhibited these at like a chiropractor's office or something. So this was like, yeah, early paintings. And again, like the sidekicks, the woods in the back, like the nature, you know, is in there. And then nature sprouting from her hair, from her body, everywhere. Next slide. And these are newer. So again, now the sidekicks are gone, right? Now I'm concentrating, like now I'm focusing in on her and what she's about, and growing, evolving. Nature is still part of it. It's a little bird, wings, butterfly wings, roots. They're looking a lot more like confident. I don't know. That's what I'm seeing. They're looking straight on and kind of like they know who they are, kind of. Next slide. This one is called No Borders. Again, collage. And this is on wood and acrylic paint, paint markers. And yeah, just again, like just looking at things through a child's eye, kind of still. A woman in the center, a girl in the center. And yeah, just hope. And next slide. The ancestors, this piece sold recently. So again, just connecting with our ancestors, with our culture. This was a Dia de los Muertos piece. I used some stenciling and paint markers here. And yeah, so again, nature is still very relevant in my pieces. Next slide, please. And La Muralista, this sold early before, yeah, I mean, during COVID actually. Again, I'm kind of just admiring muralists now and painting about them. So I love the confidence that I felt when I did the art on the walls outside, and feeling connected to the community. So yeah, so she's doing this was a Dia de los Muertos piece too. And so just an ode to like all the muralistas out there doing their thing. Next slide, please. And Todas Libres, all of us free. So this is a little bit of collage. The butterflies are collage. The rest is paint markers and acrylic. So yeah, this is like my hope for that, you know, for all of us women artists hustling, and you know, that we will be free one day, and living off our hands, right? Like just being successful artists. And so yeah, this is my hope for like all my comrades, you know, all artists. Next slide. And healing. Most importantly, art has been for me, and this is what I see for the future with my work. And just continuing to do work that that helps people feel connected to something. You know, where you're not alone in your feelings and your joy and your sadness. And I love that now society and young people are so much in their power that they're speaking out about a lot of things and calling out, you know, this behavior that won't be tolerated from people, and you know, that we need to be accountable for the way that we're treating people in our community. And yeah, and that you will be held accountable in the community if you're being hurtful with your family, with your children. So like, this is the type of work that I want to be doing, and I'm just, you know, happy that I kept going with my work and that I've grown and I'm evolving still and learning still. Next slide, please. And these are just this is my education right here, you know, like, and all the supporters here in Chicago. So I just wanted to share, you know, for people so that they can know that, you know, these some maybe a handful are no longer, but almost all of them are still, you know, in Chicago working and offering workshops or offering services. There's calls for art. There's, you know, I mean, I'm a community and self-taught artist. Mostly, I did learn some things at Columbia College, but you know, I would say the majority of the work that I'm doing now was from community and from, yeah, from just being curious and getting myself out there. So, but I want to thank everybody for being here, and and thank you to all these awesome people that are still doing fine work in Chicago for artists and the community.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.
Yay. I'm gonna just float through your slides for a minute, and then and if people have questions, go ahead and ask Naomi.
I just have more of a comment that it was really cool to see, I guess, the Columbia photo series. I guess of your niece, right? Or what?
Yeah, my sister, my little sister.
Little sister. And so, but it's interesting because even the perspective of those images, I feel like kind of mirrors the perspective you use in your like work now, like as far as with the women, like there's this, yeah, like even like this larger than life kind of characterhood, or there's kind of exaggerated features, how you're like setting up the composition, but now you're doing that with graph and how you do that. I don't know. I think there's a really, like just seeing back to back, or in this thing, there's a really strong correlation. I really love seeing that. So that was more of a comment.
Thank you. Yeah, I do see that. I see that now.
I wanted to ask, what's the biggest painting that you've done? Because I know that you've done the murals and everything, but like, have you made something like big on canvas?
Hi, Nat. On canvas?
Yeah, like what's the biggest that you've done?
I would say the biggest one that is the one that I did 20 years ago. I have not done a big canvas again like that. Only the walls. Like, yeah, the walls, and yeah, but I should.
Yeah, because I like how
do that.
you tell a story pretty much, and it'd be cool to see it in an
Mhm.
even bigger thing too. But I know that you've done the murals, I've seen them, but I don't know, like in the canvas, I feel like you would take even more time to get so much more detail and do more stuff. That I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
and I think if I went bigger, like I think that's my problem too. Like I kind of get small and detailed, even if it's a big canvas.
Yeah, because like
Even
even
with my
watercolor, because I know you do the watercolor and gouache. You know, that'd be cool.
yeah, and so that's something that I do want to try and do a big canvas now, right? Because like, you know, my work has evolved, you know, the style has evolved. So I could probably this one right here is probably the biggest I've done recently, which is right behind me too. Can you
Yeah,
see me? Can you guys
yeah,
see
I can
me?
Yes.
see it.
Oh, okay. And yeah, so this is not huge, you could tell. But yeah, and I think that's where I get lost in those little details, and like I gotta like step back and be like, no, like it could be a big detail. You know, like
Yeah.
yeah.
I was doing a lot of watercolor too, and then once you did it on the murals, then it's like a different thing. You know, it's just
Yes.
like I
Yeah,
don't know, it has a
man, you're
different power
doing,
to it.
I love the mask, man. Those are dope. Those are
Oh,
dope.
thank you, thank you. No, well, you
You're-
inspired me, man. Yeah, like I was like, I want to do like, I want to be like her. I want to be like her. I'm
Awesome.
still watching. I'm still following you. You know, I love everything
Yeah.
you do. All the
Thank you
watercolor
so
and the
much.
details. Yeah, the stories that you tell.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions? And by the way, Natalia is going to be doing a talk January 20th.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm already nervous.
Yeah, but it's a good crowd. It's a very nice, friendly environment.
I've, I've got a question. Well, I've got some comments and a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Oh, hello. Well, first of all, I have family down in the RGV. So when you were talking about the valley, um,
Really?
yeah, I have relatives in Farr, McAllen, Mission, and Harlingen.
No way.
And
Wow. Yeah. McAllen. Yeah, I know McAllen too.
and growing up in Chicago, my dad would go to Mexico every year, and we would stop in Harlingen and McAllen. So I'm familiar with the trek down to Mexico, and we'd go to Matehuala, San Luis. So I
Wow.
identify with a lot of what you were saying, and so I kind
Yeah.
of feel a kinship with you. And I just wanted to comment on your work. Um, I love your colors. They're bold, but not overtly bold. They're more of a muted bold, and I don't know if that's intentional or not. But I'm drawn. I mean, the images are great, but I'm really drawn also by your use of color. And you were talking about your images, and you kept saying she and she and she, and you said she is evolving. If you had to define she, how would you define she, right now? Who is
Uh,
she at the moment?
she is looking ahead. um, she is putting all her energy into her art. She is, yeah, just I and it is me, right? These are like these are coming out of me. They're alter egos, maybe. I don't know. They're what I wish I could be, or maybe what I was when I was doing the old cheese. And yeah. And so, but more than anything, like I want it to be a universal feeling, like I want women to connect to it, and I hope that they do. I think that they do, because I think it's that inner child that we're always healing, and we're always thinking back to, like, because I know, like, I lost myself for a while. um I wasn't doing art, like I wasn't, what was that? Well, how would I explain it? It was like I kind of was feeling like, oh, why am I still doing this? Like, this is childish, this is, I should just concentrate on just I got to get a house. I got to do, these pressures that we get from society, like, well, when are you going to get a house, or when are you going to have kids? And like, it's just like, I think I lost myself trying to fulfill that, like trying to be like other people. And then when it didn't work out for me, I still had my art, and I was like, okay, well, what am I doing? This brings me happiness. Why am I trying to find happiness in these other things, or trying to fit in, or trying to, and I'm glad that I kept going. I'm glad that I was like, you know what, this is what helps me. And I'm gonna keep going. And so I did. I just kept working. And like, that's where I'm at. That's where she's at. She's looking ahead. She's going to, give her energy to her art and keep forging ahead.
Yeah, you had mentioned a confidence, but I was going to say, I also, when I see the work, or maybe taken all together, I also see a calmness that seems to echo. Maybe it's unintentional, but something strikes me as there being some kind of sense of calm, no matter what is going on in the picture. There's, I don't know if it's the color or the images, but there's this calmness. I mean, there's the confidence, but there's also a calmness that I see projected. And I don't know if that's unintentional, or maybe that's just me reading into it.
Yeah, I don't like doing smiling girls. I like them to be, yeah, like just, what would the word be? Maybe they're just, yeah, they're peaceful. Like, they're just, they're not, if you could look at them, they're not really smiling. They're just, I guess you could say they're at peace. Or they're thinking, or they're, they're thinking. I think they're maybe just, I feel like they're comfortable in their skin, and they're just,
Exactly. I think
yeah,
exactly it.
like, this is me, right?
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for indulging my questions. I don't want to monopolize too much time, but I really love the work. And like I said, the colors, and it's just beautiful. I'm glad. And I think the handmaids are amazing too. I'd like to see some more of your handmaids, but they're really nice.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're
My
welcome.
paisano from
Absolutely.
Texas.
And I grew up in Logan Square, so when you said you went to school in Logan Square, I'm like, where? So
I went to Avondale. Did you go to
oh,
Avondale?
okay. I went to
Yeah.
Gaethje, so yeah.
Oh, okay. No, yeah.
Well, thank you for
Thank you.
doing the talk. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate that you did all the background too. That was pretty cool.
Cool. Thanks.
Are there more questions, everyone?
I joined a little bit late, but I've
Oh,
met, hi, I met Naomi in Berwyn, where she got super involved and was very generous in offering her skills as an artist at like a pop-up gallery. And I thought you had like a huge canvas piece in there on that wall. It was like, was it cats or something? It was pink. Was
Yes, that was actually a collab. That was my friend Kelly and me. We both worked on that one. You're right.
Okay.
That was on paper.
That was a big one. And then I don't know if you did include it in here, but like I still haven't seen the Bourbon Public Library mural. That was like a huge mural.
Yes, I did not get to add that on there.
Gigantic.
It is. Yeah, and again, it's like a wall, but on canvas. Yeah, I need to do some canvases, I think.
Yeah, and I do
love
your whimsical. I do love your whimsical elements and like the detail, right? Because that is like something you constantly like rediscover little things. And even when you did that mural and I saw like just glimpses of it, it's just like, layers and layers of things that you can discover as you're going back to it.
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
do that in your other work too, but of course when you like create those big pieces, you know, have much more freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And I just have to do a shout out because I just loved it so much, because when you and Alex did the pop-up show in Berwyn, we had like this little temporary pop-up space of an
Yeah.
empty storefront, and you were so generous with like all these families and people coming in, helping them learn little printmaking, and like
Oh
doing
yes, that was
demos
so
on the
fun.
printing capabilities and stuff, and even just like impromptu drawing on the wall, like a gigantic like community, and we're all together. It's just like, to me, I just find it like that it just kind of naturally flows out, and
Yes.
you're just, you know, generating original illustration, you know,
On the spot
just
too.
on the spot. It's amazing. So I always love seeing your work, and it's really cool hearing the background, you know,
Thank
where you
you.
came from, and seeing how you see your work evolving. I do like the little
Yes.
side,
The little what?
like little sidekicks. I do like the little
Oh yeah.
sidekicks. It's a bummer that they're like being kicked out.
I know, right? She doesn't need them anymore. She kicked them out. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that was like how I started. Yeah, like and I find it interesting that they all of a sudden they disappeared. And it was just like, okay, like what does that mean? Does that mean that I don't need that anymore, or need them anymore, or like I don't know. It was just interesting. And now I even draw them on their own, like they're not together. But yeah, maybe I should do a piece again with them together. Thank you, Sabine.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
I've been noticing you've been doing a lot of workshops and a lot of different things in the last 6 months. How are you feeling about being a teaching artist, and how is that affecting your work too?
Yeah, so you know, like when I would do the workshops, it's funny because it would be for kids, but then the adults wanted to be in it too. So it was like I really like that. I love that about teaching in community, where you know it starts off for the youth, the young people, but then everybody gets involved, and that's what I love about that. And now, like with COVID, I got back into teaching, and you know it's really sad right now, like what the kids are going through, like not being able to be in that you know, be together. And so I just check in with them, you know, I'm always checking in with them. And I haven't done it in a while, so I'm kind of still also like kind of breaking into it and getting back into it. But you know, I think it's an important time to be teaching, because you're not just teaching, you're also helping with that social, emotional part of, you know, their day, or and I think all the teachers, not just art teachers, you know, but so it's been interesting. I mean, it's not the same, you know, obviously, but yeah, so I guess I'm doing okay. I can't wait till we're able to be together again, you know, but of course, you know, we have to wait.
So does anyone else have any questions for Naomi? I have another one, is where does your name come from? Your Monstrochika.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, you cut out, hon.
Jose, one day he was just like, "You're always drawing monsters and girls, you know, you're like a monster chick. You're a Monstrochika." And I was like, "Oh my God, that sounds so cool." I was like, actually, then I just started signing that. Yeah, so that's how it started. Because he was making fun of me But I was like, I like that. I actually like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, sometimes I think like, so I'm gonna have this name forever. So I'm kind of like, like I'm gonna be like really old, and people are still gonna be like,
well,
I saw Monstrochika.
I still call people by their art names.
Yeah. But yeah. But thank you so much. And this like the slideshow, like I was like going through and I was like, wow, but wait. And I just kept adding. I was like, wait, but there was this and there was, and then
There's
it all
probably
just kind of
many things that you haven't had on there.
Yeah, no, there was. I was like, okay, no, that's too much. But I didn't. That was the first time that I ever shared those photographs, actually. But like, I have never shared those with anybody. They're just kind of in my, yeah. I was like, I was looking at them. I was like, man, like I remember her critique. I remember, and then I was like, I should share that. Like that's a body of work that I've done and that so. Sneak peek for everybody.
I have one question, just because you started using Procreate, right?
Oh, yes.
I see you so much as like a tangible artist, like someone who actually likes to touch and have like the layers. So how does it feel like? Where do you see Procreate maybe going into this, like going in the virtual space where so many artists are rendering something on the computer and digitally versus like the physical area?
Yeah, like it's I'm starting to think about how I can make it just look more like my style, like and I think I'm gonna have to use a lot of texture because I think that's what with the paint and the gouache and the watercolor, like I just have to find brushes that are like similar, that give that same effect, and then I'll be happy. But right now I'm not very happy. Yeah, like it's very flat, it's very like I've used some kind of gradient, but I haven't figured out the texture yet. Like I gotta find, there's so many brushes. So yeah, so I want to keep working on that. But yeah, like I see so much amazing work out there, like with Procreate and digital, that I love, and it's mostly children's illustration, but gosh, I wish I could. Yeah, some of this stuff is amazing, and then and then the animations and everything, like it's just, but yeah, nope, still working on that. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's very different, but I think if I figure out like how to find those brushes that give that same effect,
and there's probably like different applications for that too, right? Because it's like, well, if you do like illustrations or for a book or for like a scene or sign scene or anything like that, but like as an art buyer, like someone I like to have art, it's so nice to have something that someone physically touched. Like I understand that people also like buy like prints, and digital prints and things like that. But I always love it when it's like I can see like the pen stroke, or I can see, brush or the collage or something like that. So it's just interesting, like the different mediums when you see artists going more Procreate. It's like, but would you use that for sketching, or would you use it to actually create original work that you're not gonna put on paper or canvas? So it's just interesting to see where artists go in the physical and the digital.
I haven't printed anything that I've done on Procreate. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably just use it for digital. I don't know if unless it looks very, like I said, like if I can get the same effect with texture and all that, and it looks nice on a print, then I'll print it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to wrap everything up. And thank you. That was a great talk. And and next week. Check social media for future Zooms and future streams. Next week, we're featuring Mr. Pinta Muro. Thank you to Hairpin Art Center for being our streaming partner. Thanks for watching.